afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. This is Alfried Langle speaking. We have a planned webinar tonight on the theme of, in the continuation of our last Facebook live chat, which was on October 18 at 7 p.m. in London. And the theme of this webinar is the deepening of this question of really living and its relationship to meaning. And we want to give some more impacts, reflections, discussions, background. And possibly you have questions and bring them up. And I plan to have now a 15 minutes discussion time at the end. We are doing these chats on the internet because we are preparing a training group in London, which will start in May, end of May, and we will have even a day in London and for presentation and questions and an open access, the open day for all people who are interested and who can do it to come to London on the 23rd of February. This is a workshop and open day for free from 10 to 6 p.m. And the training will start in the last days of May this coming year. Today, last time, we spoke about what it means to really live. And this being in touch with, really in touch with life, means that life does not really happen if we are not personally present in our life. And we ask ourselves if we ever had such a feeling, such an experience that we were really present. Because this existential psychology, existential analysis, including logotherapy, is a form of psychological help and based on an anthropology, which is turning around the question what existence means. And existence, we all know, means just being there. But our question is, how can we really be there fully with all our components, body, psyche, person, spirit, mind. And only when we are integrated and wholly ourselves, then we are really there. And for this, in existential analysis, we have a key term. We spoke about it last time, just to remember. This key term is very important for the everyday life, but also basic for existential therapy in counseling. The key term is inner consent, inner approval to that what I do. If we watch and look at having an inner consent, an inner approval, an inner yes to that what I do, then I take myself and put myself into the connection, into the reality, into my surroundings, into the relationship, into the work I do at home or in the working place. When I have an inner yes, this means I resonate inwardly with what I'm doing. And this inner resonance is very important, because when I have an inner resonance, when I have an inner agreement, a harmonization of myself with what I do, then I'm fully connected. Then I fulfill what started with my birth. When I came to this world, I came into connection with a cold or hot or world which is full of otherness. I'm surrounded by otherness, other people, other things, other climate. And to maintain in this otherness, it needs to strengthen myself, to grow as a person, to grow as an ego, and to develop physically, psychologically, psychically, and to develop as the one who I am. We easily grow up physically by itself. We easily grow up psychically. But growing up personally as the one who I am, this is a big endeavor which lasts the whole life. To be myself in congruence with myself and in harmony with the world around. This double connection in which the human being is constantly means that me, I as a person, I am connected with my inner world constantly. I have my feelings, my thoughts, my body, my history, my longings, my pain, my anxiety, all this from the inner world must be lived in an outer world. One leg is always standing on the inner world, and one leg is always standing in the outer world. And the outer world is my surrounding, the otherness. Without the other, I cannot become myself. I cannot live myself. I cannot find myself. We need this exchange between the outer world and the inner world. And that this basic exchange, this basic existential dialogue can really happen and brings me into the scene of this world, this requires my inner approval, my inner consent, my inner felt yes. It must be a felt yes. It's not enough to have a thought, a thinking that it is okay to what I do, or that it is useful, or that it is rational, or important, or because other people do it or say it. This is not yet me. This is just my consciousness, but my consciousness is only a part of me. To be fully present means to look at this resonance, which I can't make, which is an inner mirror, an inner answer out of my essence, which tells me that what I do actually, that this has some similarity with me, has a deeper connection with me. It is perceived intuitively, phenomenologically, we can also say. It is not a logical deduction from any theory or from any expectation. It is something which comes up out of this deep inner freedom, which is combined with our essence. As a person, when I'm essential, I feel free. I feel being myself. I am maybe conscious of it, but maybe not. It is not so important if I'm conscious about it. More important is that I live in it, that I stand in it, that I feel so deeply connected with it. So this is the basic to really live, that we connect with this capacity in us. But this capacity is now, and when we are going to deepen this capacity is based on 4 layers or 4 columns or 4 dimensions, the 4 dimensions of existence. If we look at our life, at our being there, then we can see and experience that our life has always to do with the world, with the facts, with the reality around us and the facts of within us. There are givens. My body, my psyche, these are given facts. There are outer facts like the physical or chemical or biological or physiological reality in which I am, economic reality, political reality. We are always have to deal with facts, which we can call our world. Without dealing with the facts, we cannot come to a life with inner consent, because life is not a dream. Life means to really deal with the truth, the given, with what is there. Therefore, we came into this world, to deal with it and to really see it, understand it, know about it, and adapt to it, and work with it, and construct our projects. We construct a cake, a bread, we construct a house, we construct a car, we construct chemical stuff, and we care for our body, and we earn money. All is turning around this being able to be in this world. So the first dimension is this dealing with the reality, which of course needs a great deal of looking at my capacities, to look at what am I able, and to refer to what I can do, and to limit myself on that what I can do. But that what I can, I should apply it with all the power, with all the knowledge, and even to broaden that what I can by learning. But then this gives me more contact to the world, more access to the world. The more I can, the more languages I speak, the better I can communicate. The more I can do my sports, the farther I can drive my bicycle. The better I can swim, the farther I can swim, and so on. So in this first dimension, we look at the reality outside, and we look at the inside and look at what can I do? What capacity do I have? What am I able for? When I find what I can, then I can place my inner consent, my inner yes, on a real, true connection with the world. And an exchange with the world can happen, which is absolutely necessary to survive physically, psychically, personally. We need this strong connection with that what is given, not so much with what we wish or what is our fantasy, but more with what is given. So the second, this is the first dimension. The second dimension with which we have to deal, the second dimension of existence, which is basic for a real life. The second dimension is the connection with life. We are living as human beings, having a physical life in us, and a psychological life, and let's say a personal spiritual life of culture and encounter. So to live our life, be touched with our life, by our life, be connected with our life. When we just function, we do not really live. We only live when we have our feelings, when we feel being there, because life happens in feelings. Feelings are telling us how our life is resonating with what we are doing, with what we are experiencing. When I love, it is only love when there are strong feelings. The knowing that this is a honest person is not yet love. It is another sphere. Love means to feel a big attraction to somebody or to something, what I love to do. Maybe sports, maybe reading, maybe playing piano, whatever. When I love, I feel attracted. I feel be moved, touched. And this is so important that we allow ourselves to be moved, to be touched, because these feelings are not just like a shadow which follows the intelligence or the rationality or the logic. No, these feelings are an own perception of what is really moving my life, what connects with my life. So we feel most life when we are fallen in love, for instance, but we also feel a lot of life when we feel a pain. Pain tells me there is life. We feel pain only where there is life, in the body, but also in the psyche. The second dimension is to connect with this reality which is unavoidable, life. And life appears through feelings. Feelings tell me how this situation, this object is interfering with my physical, psychical, spiritual life in me. But what we perceive by feelings, we call this values. A value is something which gives me a good feeling. A good meal, when we eat something pleasant, it gives me a good feeling. When we go for a walk, when we have a good talk, when we listen to music, when we read something, when we dig in the garden, this is valuable because we feel that it does good to our life. Positive feelings are what we perceive by positive feelings are values. When it makes negative feelings, then it is the opposite, a non-value. It is disgusting or just painful or heavy. It brings me more away from my life. Values, instead, they connect me with life. Values make me feel an agreement to my life. When it is valuable, I have the feeling, wow, this is so good to my life. When I listen to this music, when I'm in the nature, when I see you and look in your eyes, then my heart is swinging, and then it makes it easier to live. And a yes to life comes up in me. And this yes says, well, if life is that way, I like to be there. I like to live. I like even to take into account that sometimes it is hurting, because ultimately it is good. So we have spoken about two components, two bases of our life. The first one, the first dimension, the connection to the reality, to the world, looking at what I can do. The second one is our connection to life, to give space to our life, and what we can do to foster that, to make it stronger, is that we look at what we like to do. Not only what we can, like in the first dimension, but also what do I really like what I can do. I can do, of course, write an article, but do I like it? I can do, of course, give a lecture, but do I like it? I like it, by the way. And if you listen, ask yourself, if you like to listen. Of course you can listen, but this is not enough. To see, to feel, to perceive if this what I listen to has a value, it must make the feeling of, oh, I like it. It's interesting. somehow touching me. It maybe gives me a good feeling because I understand better what it is all about, life and difficulties. And if I don't have enough likes in my life, if I don't have enough good feelings and values, then my life becomes burdened and heavy. And then from this dimension on starts the development of depression. Depression means to have a life which is not very rewarding, moving, touching, does not have lots of good feelings and values. Whereas in the first dimension, if I do not connect well enough and feel well based in the reality and in the world, if I don't feel that this world is carrying me, that in my reality I can stay safely, then anxiety comes up. First dimension, that dealing with the reality produces anxiety if it doesn't work. We will see in a later seminar both anxiety and depression, how they are related with the basis of existence. The third dimension, or you can put it like a table with 4 legs. The third leg of this table is the fact that I have to be myself throughout my whole life. I must always be me. I cannot separate from me. Life can be lived only as a me, I. And this me needs the encounter of others, needs the encounter of a you to be really able to develop. And not only to develop, but to come to his or her hate by encountering a you. This encounter happens through dialogue. Dialogue is very important. Without dialogue, I will not find myself. And without dialogue, I cannot reach you and we cannot meet. Encounter. Encounter is what happens in a dialogue. Encounters happen through dialogues, mostly verbal, but it need not be a verbal. It can be a physical one by touching somebody or kissing. This is a strong dialogue. The third dimension is this unavoidable fact that I have to deal with myself, with me, to be myself. And this means that I have first to be myself, to become myself, to have an inner dialogue with myself. And here the question comes up, if that what I do corresponds to me and to my essence, to me as a person, if I really can stand behind that what I do personally, if I really have the feeling that that what I do shows me, is in connection with me, that I can be authentic. Authenticity means that what I say, what I do has a resonance, a deep inner resonance with my depth within myself. I have the feeling, this is so true what I say, this is so me. I see myself in it. I have maybe other thoughts and we can discuss about it, but this is just a cognitive level. The reality of me is felt and seen in that what I do. And we can see if another person is authentic or not. We feel it. We feel the honesty. We see it in the eyes of the person, how the person looks. So the third dimension deals not with the world, not with life, deals with the person, me as a person, which is only possible by meeting you as a person. It needs this culture of dialogue and encounter. And in this dimension, it is very important to look at what corresponds to me. And for this, we have the verb, may I do this? Does it correspond to me and to you? Do I do justice to you and to me if I say that, if I go there, if I meet you, if I decide this way? Can I take over the responsibility, which is always connected with a decision? Being myself, becoming more myself, includes with this authenticity also the moral conscience. It is the dimension where the ethic takes place. It's the dimension of the encounter in society, of respect of each other and of myself. So to come to a fulfilling life on the basis of inner consent, we now have 3 of the 4 legs already. The connection with the world, looking at what I can. The connection with my life, looking at what I like. The connection with myself, with my person, and you, your person, by looking at what is okay, what I may do, what I feel to be allowed and corresponding to you and me. And now the 4th dimension has to do with the fact that we are always in greater horizons, that we are born into a family, we are grown up in a village or a city, we live in a state, we work in an enterprise, we have been at school, we are always horizontally seen in a system, in a bigger connection to a greater context. And whatever we do impacts this context. And whatever the context is, has an impact upon me. There is a continuous exchange. When my environment is supporting and friendly, this stimulates me to support my environment in revenge. When my environment is hostile, this stimulates me to defend myself, to be hostile as well. So we are in a constant exchange with the greater contexts, horizons in which we are, horizontally, but also vertically in time. We are our past, we are in the present, and we are going and looking into a future. This is one line. And when we look for having inner consent, the 4th requirement is that we see that we are in a good context, that this relationship in which I live, for instance, is still worth being lived. It is a good envelope for my life or a good code for my life. And that there is a value in the future which is coming up. That I'm going towards something in the tomorrow, in the future, which has a value. When we have this, the feeling that both is true, the context, and that listening to this seminar, for instance, brings a value for tomorrow, for my life, for my clients. When I see it is good, when I feel it is good to listen, because there will come out something better, then we have the feeling of meaningfulness. Life is meaningful when we feel ourselves directed in the intention to work on or to contribute or to experience something which brings up something good in the future and happens in a valuable bigger context like a working place or in a profession, in a hospital, or working with clients, will contribute to the world. When we have bad contexts in which we live, then this is demotivating us. Then we don't see much meaning to, for instance, to endorse a corrupt enterprise. In such a corrupt enterprise, it's not worth living, working, contributing. It does not make meaning. Or when we see that we speak with somebody who is not really listening to us and is not really interested to what we say, nothing good will come out. And so we stop our talking. It's so natural to us, but it is important to know about these dimensions and their contents, because without them, we cannot work in situations with people when they do not feel or come to an inner consent, to an inner agreement, to an inner yes to what they do. What is the appropriate personal activity in this dimension? We said in the first dimension, it is looking at what I can do. In the connection with life, we look at what I like to. In the connection with myself, in being me as a person, we look at what corresponds to me, what I may do, and what corresponds to you. And in the fourth dimension, it needs a checking up with the environment, with the context, looking at the harmonizing. Is that what I do? Does this correspond to the need of the situation? It was Frankl who brought up into psychotherapy the notion of the so-called existential turn. To find meaning, Frankl said, we should, in a first step, refrain from ourselves and open up ourselves and look at what is in this context where I am needed or the highest value. For instance, the highest value in this situation is to listen maybe 10 more minutes to this seminar. Or it may be that your child is calling you and needs you, then it is a higher value to go to your child. Or if you see it does not give me something, I don't know how I can apply it, then it is the higher value to stop listening and to go and do something else. And this has to be individually found in each situation. Therefore, this existential concept of meaning and purpose is highly personal, needs to be done every minute, every hour. Is this looking at the concordance with the situation? Does this, what I do now, does this correspond to the requirement of the situation, to the need of the situation? Or does this correspond to the highest value of the situation when I experience a value? And at the same time, does it correspond to the other three dimensions within me? The being there in the world, the liking my life, and the being in tune with myself as a person. The requirement may be, for instance, because it's meaningful to listen a bit more maybe to bring up a question. If it corresponds to the situation, if it is a possibility which the situation offers, and this possibility is asking me, you always had a question about this, about meaning, or about anxiety, or something like this, or I just have a client with which I have a difficulty in finding inner consent and approval to what they do. Then the requirement of this situation, the need of this hour could be that you bring up that question. If it corresponds to yourself on the level of I can do it, I have it clear enough in my head, and it has a value for me, it is important, and it is true, it is something which matters for me personally, which is important for me or for what I do, and when it fourth corresponds, is in tune with the situation, with the requirement, then my life, I answer my life, I bring myself to existence when I do what I feel to be needed. Existence then is the table, the place on the top of the four legs of these conditions. Existence means to really live with inner consent based on these four yes. This yes to the world, this yes to my life, this yes to myself and to you, and this yes to the context and the value in the future, to the meaning. All these four together help me, or makes it possible that I can be fully there, fully present, and give myself into this world and receive so much. And when I give myself to this world on the level of with my heart, then I receive so much, and this gives me fulfillment. Living with inner consent and approval, but it leads to inner fulfillment, to a wholeness which I experience in my breathing with the world, in my dealing with the world. So this is a brief summary of some basic topics which we do in our training in existential analysis for counseling and for psychotherapy. And each of these dimensions has deeper structures, much deeper structures. And we work on them because they give the background of psychopathology. If they cannot be lived, we have typical psychopathologies, anxiety and depression. In the third, these are the most personality disorders and hysteric reactions and neurosis. And in the fourth, it is mainly suicidality, which happens when it is not lived. So we work on this basis, and this founds the basic training in existential analysis, which we are going to start end of May in London. And if you want to hear more, please come to our open day in London. We will deepen these a bit more, these dimensions. Next time, my colleague Derek Claassen from Vancouver will speak about acceptance, which belongs to the first dimension of existence. And he will go to deepen it in January 17th, working on acceptance in practice and how we can help people to live with what is given. And then we will have a continuation in working on life, and are going to deepen that in February and March and so on. There will be some more webinars. You have them on the homepage. Derek Claassen will do the next two webinars in December 13th on live and in January 17th on the deepening of the first dimension of existence. This, what I gave, was the overview of this existential approach to life. But maybe there are some questions. I'm not sure who, I think Julia is going to help us in this, and that we can see and answer. If it is possible to have, you can maybe even write your questions. I don't know. I don't hear, maybe it's just not working well. However, while we are waiting, I can give you a bit more information about these basic structures of existence. We may ask ourselves, do I really look at this inner resonance which I can feel when I do something? We sometimes have feelings of awkwardness when we do something, or of rejection, or of disgust. It does not mean that it is always pleasant what I do. It simply means that what I do in the totality should reflect to me a correspondence to these four dimensions. For instance, when I do sports, we should try to do our sports with inner consent. And in jogging, for instance, to run as much and as quick and as far as I feel this does good to me. I feel yes to it. This jogging is a healthy jogging. But if I do more because I want to win, I want to be the best, I'm too ambitious, then I'm stressing my body. This jogging is no longer really good. We can ask ourselves and pay attention to, does it correspond in difficult situations? For instance, when we have a problem with our partner, or have to speak about something critical, that this is not pleasant, of course, and we feel a bit shyness or anxiety, but then we can maybe feel and see that I can do it. I can speak it up. There is a value in danger. Our relationship can be hurt, can be damaged if I don't speak it up, if I don't say it. Third, I can feel that it really corresponds to my deep feeling, to what is important for me. I can't stand it any longer. I must make it a problem. I must speak up that problem with my partner. And if I don't do it with my partner, I do not justice to my partner. So it's really not pleasant. But I don't like it, but I feel the value in it. It corresponds to me. It is ethical. It is authentic if I do it. And fourth, it makes meaning. It brings up a meaning. It gives our relationship a chance to develop better in the future, to maintain the relationship or to separate, because it may be better to separate. But this is what we are occupying ourselves in the therapeutic practice or in counseling. We have, of course, all these difficult situations in partnership, in the working place, with myself, this suffering with anxiety, etc. And we can apply this perspective by looking at, when you live this situation, when you live it through, do you feel inner consent? Because you can, you like, you may do it, and you should do it. There is a requirement of the situation. When all four are together, then we have a full, meaningful life, a rewarding life. Even when it is painful, we can feel being rewarded when we are in grief, when we are in pain. But this is only the case when we are in connection with ourselves, when we feel to be really myself in this situation. When I cannot really be myself, when I lose myself, when I alienate myself, then I have all these difficulties which may result in psychopathology. It seems that the question possibility did not work today. We will try to improve it so that we can do it next time in January. In December, there will be a Facebook Live, not with not with the possibility of question and answer, but then in January it should be workable and doable. So please save your date for our meeting in next time, December 13, same time, and for our meeting in London, for those who can do it, February 23, and starting of the training in May 28 in London. Before we start the training, we will speak with each of you by Skype or phone or personal meeting in London, so that we have already a well-selected group who promises to well work together. So thank you. I wish you a good time, a good morning, a good evening, and thank you for listening and being there. Bye-bye.